Today on Foundation Lady, I'll be doing a foundation review of the Smashbox Studio Skin 24-Hour Hydra Foundation in the shade 1.05. Here we have a freshly applied swatch of shade 1.05, and underneath is a swatch of what it looks like when it's dry. And I will also tell you what I think of this new sponge I got called the Stands Out Beauty Sponge. So this shade is pulling a little bit yellow on camera, but in person it is a beautiful, pale, neutral olive undertone. In fact, this foundation wasn't even on my mind, but while I was in Sephora, I spotted this gorgeous shade from across the room and just had to try it. So I got a little sample to try it out and see if I like the formula. So my initial thought, other than being in love with the shade of this, is that I really like how thin it is for how well it covers. I'm a big fan of full coverage but thin feeling foundations. As I'm putting this on though, I'm noticing a lot of unevenness, and I'm not sure if that's due to the sponge or the foundation formula itself. If you notice this area right here, it's almost as if the foundation is not sticking to that area. And this sponge is very porous, so I can't tell if it's pulling some of the foundation off as I'm putting it on, or again, if it's just the foundation formula. So I'm going to go in with my fingers on the forehead and see how we do there. So clearly I'm getting a much fuller coverage using my fingers on the forehead, but I will also test it with a brush on the right side of my face, just so we can have 3 different methods to see which one works best with this formula. While I'm blending though, let's go ahead and cover the basics of this foundation. This is a medium to full coverage formula that's infused with hyaluronic acid. It's 24-hour wear and oil-free. Now it doesn't say what the finish is, but I can already tell just from the few minutes I've had it on that it's going to be fairly matte. Now you get 1 fluid ounce or 30 ml for $39 US. There's no SPF, no added fragrance, and there are 39 inclusive shades to choose from. So you can clearly see with the foundation on half of my face right now that the forehead where I used the fingers definitely got better coverage, but at the same time I'm also noticing my lines kind of peeking through a little bit more. So I decided I'm going to try to build it up a little bit more with the Stands Out sponge to see if I can make it look a little bit more consistent between how the forehead looks and my cheek looks. But so far, I'm not having much luck getting it to a consistency I like. It feels like it's either too thick in some places or a little bit too thin in others. So we'll see how we do on the other side with a brush. And I'm going to go in with one of what I think is the best foundation brushes, which is the Artis foundation brush, so that I can see if I'm just having trouble with the formula or my application methods. So I sped this clip up a little bit so you could get a good visual at how this is blending out. And you can kind of see that I seem to be having trouble getting this to go on evenly. I'm noticing that I'm having to tug a little bit more at my skin than I usually do to get a foundation to blend out. And I'm just going to pause right here for a moment so you can kind of see what I'm talking about with the unevenness. If you look right here, I have kind of like a big clump that's not really blended out. And then right next to it, it's almost my bare skin underneath. And then right here on the cheekbone, it looks beautiful, but next to that on the cheek, I still look really red. So I just seem to be having a lot of trouble figuring out how to make this smooth all over. So once I applied it all over my face, I just wasn't quite feeling it yet. So I thought, let me just go over it with a clean, damp beauty sponge to try to pick up any of the excess and see if that makes any difference. And it really made a difference. That was kind of where the magic happened with this foundation. It really just took off the excess and gave me more of an even, smooth finish. I then went in afterwards and sprayed my Morphe setting spray all over it, and then we were in business. So for me, this was one of those foundations where the application method mattered greatly. If you have normal to somewhat dry skin like I do, I think using a non-porous sponge is probably your best method for getting it on evenly. However, that's not to knock the Stands Out sponge. I'm going to try that with a different formula because I feel like this was just not the best formula to try it out with. So the formula is really thin, which I love. The colors and undertones are quite honestly spectacular. They are absolutely beautiful. and it looks really good in pictures, I have to say. My overall assessment is that this foundation would probably look spectacular on those of you with oily skin, maybe even oily to normal skin. It's interesting that it has the word Hydra in it because you would think with the hyaluronic acid, it being a Hydra formula, that it would feel a little bit more moisturizing on the skin. But honestly, I just felt like my skin felt a little bit tight. And when I would smile, you could kind of see those extra lines in my cheek where it was kind of pulling a little bit. But I've heard other makeup artists, especially those with oily skin, say that they absolutely love this foundation, that it's one of their favorites. So I'm not saying it's a bad foundation, I'm just saying it's not the one for me. But I would love to hear if you've tried this, and if you have, what skin type do you have? Please share it with us because I always love to hear what works for you and what doesn't. I'll see you soon. Have a beautiful day.